All right, we're live. This new studio I'm getting used to. All right, first thing, this is the serious part tonight. I'm going to ask all of you that listen to this to do me a favor. It'll take you about 90 seconds of your time. It's going on 2 weeks now that I'm still fighting with Steam to get my account back. Games that I paid money for, games that were given to me, a game that I have several hundred hours invested in over the years. And I can't, because I have a pending issue, I can't send any more, and apparently the first one. So what I'd like you to do, take 90 seconds, go to Steam, send them an email, and use one of these phrases. Free Cascoid, answer Cascoid, restore Cascoid. And maybe if they see enough of these, they'll dig through their files and go, who the hell's this Cascoid dude? And they'll find my complaint. And I'll finally be able to get back and play my games, mainly Scythe, I admit, that I haven't been able to get in and play for a couple of weeks because some son of a bitch has hijacked my account. And if there was some way I could find out who this guy was, I would have his life made miserable. Anyway, that's all for that. Oh, and a thank you to, I want to make sure I get the name right. Yes, Eric Garland, thank you. The iPod came today. Now, if I'm ever able to restore my iTunes from my old crashed hard drive backups, then I'll be in business. Hopefully, I can at least get my playlist off the dead one. Hopefully, thanks a lot, though. Wouldn't be able to even try without it. And now, to get back into the season, so to speak. Yo ho ho. Yeah, I know. It's getting close. Let's see. Okay, first we'll go through some responses and comments that I got. Didn't get a lot this time. Ivanhoe was awesome. Yeah, it was an awesome movie, especially if you saw it as young as I did. And another one that I forgot about, of course. If I sat down and gave this real study, it would have been on my top 20 list, without a doubt. El Cid. El Cid. Great movie. Great movie. Great actors. Ooh. And what a lady. 12 to 15 for a hardback and $6 for a module was a buttload of money too when I was in my early teens with AD&D. Oh, it's always been an expensive hobby. But I think in defense of that, it's hard to find something you get more bang for your buck than if you got the hardbacks. For instance, if you paid, I don't know, $10 or $15 for each of those. I don't remember when they first came out. And okay, so we'll say 15, and so you spent $45 on the 3 hardbacks of the first edition. How many hundreds, perhaps thousands of hours did you get out of that? And then you have to multiply by how many people you played with. So though that investment provided, entertainment for how many hundreds or thousands of player hours. So yeah, I know it was expensive. By the margin that was prevalent in the day, we had to charge what we had to charge so that we could get it distributed. We were lucky if we got half the cover price to ourselves. The rest all went to the middle people, the distributors and the store owners, and that's completely fair. That's the way it works. But we weren't making all that money. We were only making some of that money. Okay. All right. Now, this individual likes to hit the time dates on when I'm talking about stuff. So, and remember that I read these as I get them. Pitting giant roach versus boulet in a cage match. Well, I misspelled boulet, forgot the last E. No, none of your true fans would want to do that. Gladiator deathmatch sport between bugs or animals or humans is wrong, entirely hypothetical, even hypothetical monsters, which have been madly genetically engineered with demon ichor, like the boulet. But you got to admit, those hypothetical beasts would have some scenarios of attacking each other on their own. I mean, one of the most iconic druid spells was Insect Swarm, and I'm thinking by now Giroud should be reinvented, especially in your honor. In certain campaigns where he's reached an epic level of badass MF or his Celtic 20th level arch druid, and he'd found or carefully bred some type of supernatural mutant bug that could kick the boulet and go on a massive boulet massacre campaign, as the ecological environmentalists all real dreads are. Actually, this touches on why the boulet was invented. This individual is saying, okay, Giroud could make something that would clean out the continent of boulets. Well, I created the boulet to be a bane to hobbits and to considerably cull the population of dwarven ponies. That somehow, for those of you who haven't heard the story, somehow dwarven ponies became a thing because, after all, if they're dwarven ponies, they're used to working underground. They don't have to see. Pardon me, and they're used to chipping and noise, and they're the perfect pony for underground adventurers. Well, that's part of why I invented the boulet, and now you're going to invent a bug that's going to take out the boulet. What I want to see in real life is why they can't take out a bug that will take out the mosquito, because the mosquito has killed more humans than all the humans put together have killed each other. Mosquitoes are the bane of our existence. Okay, here's another one from another date stamp or time stamp. Okay, it was a convoluted way of saying some debilitated people turn to fascination because their reality is cruel, and so gaming is a creative outlet, and for some even a crutch. And that's a good observation, and it's something that we at TSR noted right away, simply because of some of the people that took to it like ducks to water. They were socially uncomfortable, socially inept, for whatever reason. Now, what made them that way, whether it was a traumatic upbringing or personality defect or chemical defect in their brain, I'm not going there. We didn't go there. We just knew that a lot of very bright, very eccentric individuals gravitated toward games, period. And then, because let me tell you, the guys at Carbondale, before I got there and infected them with D&D, were typical gamers of the time. They were nerds, really bright people, history buffs. Several of us were socially inept. I don't count myself in that. I was married and had a child by the time I got to Carbondale. But there has been an attraction. It's like the mother that wanted to blame D&D for a kid killing himself, which is a horrible thing. As a parent myself, I can't imagine the loss that must mean. But people with a certain quirk or bent or character anomaly, I hesitate to call it a flaw, are going to fixate on something. And gaming is one of the things that they can fixate on. But there's so many other things. And so to say, oh, well, he did that thing because he was gaming. No, gaming was just something he fixated on. So for those who are seeking an outlet to help them heal, wonderful. I don't question motives of why people want to play. Deep psychological motives. I assume they're getting together to have fun. If they're anything like my group, we're getting together to have fun and insult the hell out of each other for 3 or 4 hours. Okay, here we go. Another question. Same person. Did I ever have a William Shatner get a life cringe moment? That is to say, can you share some of your cringy moments with socially awkward gaming fans in such a way that you learned how to teach gaming as a therapy to had some of these people, some from broken homes who experienced a disability, trauma, or other abuse? Keep in mind, and I keep reiterating this, my hands-on experience is considerably inferior to many of you that are listening to this. It's in terms of actually running games. Oh, especially over long periods of time. I ran them intensely, then I wrote them, then I got away from games, and now I'm writing them again. Now, all this time I've been a board gamer and a miniatures player, even during my hiatus from the industry, and I'll get into that later as it happens. But I've only ever had. I'll tell you the worst cringe moment I ever had was at a convention, and the daughter of a dear friend of mine who is on the spectrum somewhere, and it's not Tourette's, but it's something like it, was being told no, she couldn't play in that game, or whatever. And the prevailing vibe and the atmosphere was like she was a pain, or she was disruptive or something like this. And I was so upset by that I said, and I really don't believe the fact that she was a daughter of a friend, because I'm not sure I knew that at that instant, that was my friend's daughter. I said, hey, come on, let's go play in my game. And we become friends, and of course, we're still friends, and she brings me cinnamon rolls. I've had a few amusing moments where people got so horribly upset by something I did, or something I modeled or crafted, or some action I did in such a way that they couldn't wrap their little uniform constricted brains around it. And no, not recently. Now, back when I was with TSR, the absolute worst part of booth duty wasn't standing up, because we had chairs, we could have sat down, but it was inconvenient. It wasn't standing up for hours on end. It was listening to character stories or my last adventure stories. And we had to listen to them, at least for 90 seconds, just because we're hoping to make a sale, and we're directing the attention. Hey, check this out, hey, check this stuff out, check it out. And that was by far the absolute worst part of being a TSR employee in the first 3 years, was having to listen to all those stories and smile and not act like you'd heard a variation of this already 813 times by the third year, and act like you were actually interested. And you didn't do it just to make a sale. You did it to reinforce their enthusiasm for the play and the game. And yeah, I'd heard the story 800 times, but I'll plaster that smile on because if you're having fun, I'm truly glad for you. Even though my smile muscles might hurt by 5:30 in the afternoon, working the booth all day. Never had a real Shatner cringe moment. Maybe because I noticed the fact that early on that some of the people came into the hobby for many different reasons. Also, keep in mind, I try to, part of my insight comes from the fact that when I went to college, I was already 4 years behind them in age and ahead of them in life experience. I'd been in the service, the military. I was married, and our first child was born in between college and the university. So I had a big leg up in that regard. It gave me a somewhat of an insight that I'll give you an example, and this is hard to explain. The class that I graduated high school from is not in the demographic that went nuts over D&D, because by the time D&D started hitting the colleges, they were out. They were off making their lives. And the prevalence of the fantasy and literature and the fantasy images and that was not playing on them like it was 4 years later. It's interesting. The more birthdays I have, I got another one coming up next month. ARF. Oh, this is back from way back. This guy was catching up or going back. ARF, is that a real thing, or are you just pulling our leg? That was referring to my angry resting face. When I just rest my face, I look like I'm pissed off. Now, I made that up, or I don't claim it. I'm the first one that did it, but I thought of it because I have a friend who suffers from it as badly as I do. And at the time, there was a trope going around about women and their resting faces being less than attractive. And one was ABF, first word being angry and third word being face. And let's see, the other one was, RBF, resting and face. And those are very sexist terms. And I decided I'd try to claim it for us guys that have bags and wrinkles and look like we're perpetually pissed at the world, but actually we might be thinking lovely thoughts about flowers and fairies and pixie dust. Yeah, okay. Let's see. How are we doing on time? Well, it's not going to be nearly as long. It's the last one. Okay, this is an addendum to my question a while back concerning any anecdotes you know of any concerning the late Don Kay. Now, at the time back then, I only had memories that Gary shared of their friendship. I thought you'd be interested in knowing that Robert Kuntz has written a brief autobiography. Yeah, I knew about that. Concerning Don, that he is publishing for $15 through Three Line Studios, Red Book Line. Well, yeah, I knew about it. Unless he's learned to write a lot better, I'm not interested in subjecting myself to that. And what motivated his recent writings, his complete, seeming disavowal of Gary and praise of Dave when he had no contact whatsoever with Dave growing up or anything like that, except when Dave would come down. And Gary had damn near helped raise him. No interest whatsoever in anything that gentleman has to say. Okay, this is an interesting question. What things should gamers watch out for when selecting dice? Well, before you go to select the dice, here's what you need to think about. How are you going to carry them? And where are you going to roll them? Now, if you're used to playing on that nice big oak dining room table, that's one thing. If you play them on the island in the kitchen, that's marble or faux marble or whatever, that's a consideration. If you roll them like through a dice box, why does that matter? Well, if you're playing on the oak table, do not buy any metal dice that have anything looking like a point. Now, you could do it if it's your table and you're a grown-up. But if you're playing at a communal table in a dormitory, or you're playing at a table at your parents' home, I'm sure mom's not going to be happy seeing that big pointy four-sider, the way it rolled across the dice and looked like it left a stencil mark. You don't, if you're gonna roll on a very resilient surface like the marble or the faux marble, whatever, you need a heavier die so they don't bounce as high. I favor dice boxes myself. Just a personal preference. That way, with a dice box, nobody can, no matter how many good rolls you get, it's purely the dice doing it and not you, and nobody can say a thing. That said, if you like rolling your own dice and that just caressing them before you drop them in the box, really sharp corners, unless they're high quality dice, are going to chip. Really sharp edges are going to chip. Soft edges are going to round. I've been known to liberate all kinds of dice out of all kinds of games. If you're going to buy them, there are several companies, none of whom sponsor me. There is a company called Dice Fanatics. They make a high quality plastic die in a lot of different colors on that. Go with a name brand, if you will, if you want. There's a couple, 3 name brands of dice. The only one that I'd feel, if the old Zaki precision dice are still being made under whoever's name, if they're those molds, they're great for getting accurate. Otherwise, buy ones that are pretty. Seriously, you're not playing for tens of millions of dollars rolling dice on a craps table. Okay, you don't need dice where they drill out all the pips and then to a certain degree and then fill in enough of a filler to mark the pips to exactly replace the weight of the material they drilled out. You don't need that. When I go to cons and I run my wheel game, I dump out my traveling dice bag, and they're all mostly black and a few red ones and a couple of oddballs, because I like black and red dice, because they spell doom and destruction. Get dice that you like the color of. If you ascribe to the theory of dice lice, tiny microscopic organisms that live in the pips of the dice, by harmonious colors, so that they'll want to live there. Because dice lice, if you treat them right, you need that better than 16, 16, 16, 16 or higher, 16 or higher. Got to let them run to the other side so they can give it to you. Buy dice you can afford. I have dice I'll never roll. I have dice made out of cat's eyes. I have another set made out of glass. I have a pair made out of jade. Those I use in a backgammon set because they get rolled across a cushioned surface, but they don't get rattled together. If I see anybody doing that, I smack them. Beware of bargain dice. Beware of the fish bowls full of dice. You can find good dice in there. If you're looking for 20 centers, pick out 15 or 20 of them of different colors and ask for a place you can roll them. And roll them. And if you see ones that are consistently rolling high, cast them aside. Because there'll also be ones consistently rolling low. Cast them aside. Get the ones that are good dice. Another dice question. Do you strictly use 3d6 only, or do you have a house rules for rolling up new characters? Well, again, the disclaimer. I don't produce new characters as a rule anymore. However, if I were, and there's a chance in the next year or two that I may actually start up another campaign for a bunch of my old OK Boomer friends. If I were, I would do 6 rolls, 4 6-siders in each roll, throw out the low one. Assign them any way you want. If I don't want to muck about with a bunch of weak weenies that just can only go fight goblins, then I might use an average die and let them start that way. As good a chance of starting at a 2 as you have of a 5. 2 3s, 2 4s. I like starting 3 4. It's really hard to start much higher than that, because then you have to have a logical story of how they got there, which means they would have acquired stuff along the way. Unless you're going to set up a one-off where y'all find yourselves naked and shivering and stripped of all your shit, and now you got to fight your way out of here to live, and let them find stuff along the way. And then it's like a Monty Hall Easter egg hunt. But I'm for getting characters that are likely to survive at least a little while if you're smart. Not the traveler system where you can kill a character in the generation process, have them die off. Appendix N. You've talked about it here, then on Dragon's Foot in interviews. Well, I just finished The Dying Earth, and it's a good book. Thanks. You're welcome. If you want to understand what Gary was thinking about with the original magic system, it's in The Dying Earth. One of the most interesting old sci-fi, boomer lovers sci-fi. And it really shows you a lot of how magic was thought up and embraced. And now, just to my free riff time. Oh, and I have just a few minutes, but that's probably good. We continue to see gamers dividing themselves, like this country isn't doing that enough already, into types of gamers. We're all gamers. Whether we play board games, whether we play miniatures, whether we play RPGs, we're all gamers. Okay, we all play games. We're RPG gamers, we're war gamers. All right, but we're also board gamers. And there's millions of people in Europe that play what we refer to as Euro games that wouldn't touch a war game, but they're gamers too. The line is so easy to blur between them. I'm known for it over the years. I took Circus Maximus when I was running the official finals for the Avalon Hill Company. I first put out models that Tom Meyer sculpted for me, and I cast it around Partha. And I turned it into a miniatures game on a big gridded board. That was just to make it easier to measure. A lot of minis games can be boiled down onto a board. I was involved with one with TSR that was a failure. Not because it was a bad game, because I still play it with people, but because at the time TSR nobody believed that TSR could do anything except D&D, or MA. And we did a game called 1066 that really meshed the two together. It was a diceless board game that took into account facing and stuff. There once was a company called Yakinto. I believe they were from Texas. Made some wonderful simulations, one of which was Ironclad. Wonderful game that lent itself from being a board game with counters to a miniatures game, because there were companies making Ironclad miniatures, not enough of them, but a lot. And I took it so far because I wrote an article about it in one of my magazines. I went to a blueprint company, and I had the arcs of fire and all that put on clear acetate in scale to the figures. So I converted it to a big play it on the floor, or a whole lot of tables, play it on the floor miniatures game. But it started as a board game. There were others. There's one now that I run at GaryCon and I run at Gamehole Con that I found surfing the web one night. That is a board game, self-published board game, really just the rules for it, and then a sheet to make up counters. That I blew up a map and had a big expensive map made, and I used Matchbox cars for the counters. That's the scale I had the map made to. And it's called Dirt Track Saturday Night. And now I've had both of those venues pack that game. People coming back to play. And now the last one was full. And I'm sure the next time both of them will be full. And so I made that into a minis game. But it was really a board game. Now, there's even further conversions that we've seen. Am I ever any less a gamer if I play Scythe online? Of course, as you well know, I can't do it now because Steam screws me. But does it make me any less of a board gamer if I play it online on a computer than if I play it on the tabletop with the pieces? Speaking of pieces, my goodness, look at all the magnificent Kickstarters that have come out in the last 3-4 years that have these fantastic plastic big pieces. Scythe being one of them, Escape from Dulce being another. They have these pieces. So those have physically mashed boards and minis together. So my lesson for the end of the year and into the new year is we're all gamers. Check out what the other guy's playing, because you might find it isn't all that different from something you play. And be glad. Well, wait a minute. I started to talk about computers. There's a game that I want to see put onto a computer called Barbarian Kingdom and Empire. A magnificent board game that just had an excruciating amount of bookkeeping to keep track of, that would play on a computer like a dream. Somebody ought to figure out how to do that. Let's see, that blew my train of thought. Yeah, go play the other guys' games and see what they look like. You might find that They're a lot of fun, and you might make some new gamers where you didn't expect it. And pretty soon you'll find them playing on your table with playing Euro games. Weird ones like where you grow peppers and produce new peppers by crossbreeding the peppers. Fun game, Scoville. We're going to play it again next week. I think that's all I got on the list. One last thing to be grateful for. Back in the day of the early board games, the self-published ones and expensive published ones had teeny weeny, really thin chits. And if you tried to pick them up with your nails, as often as not, you ran them underneath your nails and gave yourself a torture. Thank God we don't have those anymore. Now we have great big things that look like they were stamped out like a cookie. Anyway, enough railing. As the holidays approach, get in the mood, be merry, and spend time with your family. Dodata Govi. Oh, hello. I'm still figuring out when this thing starts. Welcome to my cellar.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard brain. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Tight with tramp under a tree, high as could be.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.